Well, good day, sisters and brothers. Today we celebrate the feast day of St. Thomas, apostle, martyr, and doubter. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John. Thomas, called Didymus, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples said to him, "We have seen the Lord." But Thomas said to them, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands and put my finger into the nail marks and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." Now a week later, his disciples were again inside, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came, although the doors were locked, and stood in their midst and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and bring your hand and put it into my side, and do not be unbelieving, but believe." Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you come to believe because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and have believed." The Gospel of the Lord. I kind of think that Thomas gets a bad rap, being labeled the doubter all these centuries. I mean, the other 10 apostles, they have seen Jesus the week before. And what did they do once they saw him? Did they go out into the streets and start proclaiming at the top of their lungs that the Lord is risen? No. Here they are right back locked in the upper room with Thomas. At least Thomas had an excuse. He wasn't there the week before. The apostles, they got no excuse, all right? All of the apostles, the guys that Jesus called around him to share most intimately in his mission and to be the ones who would pass it on to the next generation, they all experienced pretty extreme doubts at points in their life, not just Thomas. And I think that is encouragement for us, sisters and brothers, because Lord knows we've all been there at certain points. In fact, sometimes I get a little bit nervous about and wary of those Christians who never seem to have any doubts, who seem to have all the answers all the time. A little doubt is a good thing. It keeps us honest. It keeps us humble. At the same time, there are those people who forever are in doubt, and they're always just paralyzed. And I want to say to them, guys, at some point you got to make a decision. Following Jesus isn't about getting all the answers perfectly right on the test. Fundamentally, it's making a decision to imitate Jesus, to follow in his path and see where that will take us, you know? If we sit around trying to get all the answers that we're seeking before we start following, well, we're just going to be stuck in doubt the rest of our lives. What do we do in those moments when we do find our faith in doubt, when everything seems topsy-turvy and we're not really sure which direction we're headed? One of my favorite novels of all time is by one of the great Russian novelists, Dostoevsky, and it's called The Brothers Karamazov. And he's got a scene in this novel where there's a woman, and she goes to this priest named Father Zosima. And she has lost her faith, and she says, "Father, I don't know. I'm just worried about everything. I don't know what's going to happen when I die. Am I going to go to heaven? How do I find faith?" And Father Zosima, this old wise priest, gives her an interesting bit of advice. He says, "Try to love your neighbors actively and tirelessly. The more you succeed in loving, the more you'll be convinced of the existence of God and the immortality of the soul. And if you reach complete selflessness in the love of your neighbor, then undoubtedly you will believe, and no doubt will ever even be able to enter your soul." Interesting advice, right? I think what Father Zosima is reminding this woman is that Christianity is fundamentally not a religion of the head, but of the heart. It's not so much about getting all the ideas perfect, although the ideas are important, but more it's about following Jesus, imitating Jesus, walking in his path. And what did Jesus do? He loved, he forgave, he reconciled, he showed compassion. So sometimes when someone comes to me and they say, "Father, I've lost my faith, I don't know where I'm going," especially a young person, I say to them, well, you know, at some point you got to make a choice. At some point you got to get off the diving board and jump into the pool and see what happens, you know. You got to start coming to church. You got to start reading the Bible. And most importantly, you got to start loving and serving and caring and forgiving and doing all the things that Jesus did. And if you start doing that, who knows? You might find the Lord.